Style isn't just about personal taste. In practice, style is about communication. Whether you're designing for a homeowner, a hospitality brand, your ability to express and respond to style with clarity affects how the entire team operates. Welcome back to Architecture Beyond, the show where we go past the buzzwords and bring you the real world tools, stories, and insights shaping the future of design. I'm your host, Brandon Gibbs, a licensed architect and storyteller. Today, we're talking and tackling a topic that gets brought up in every project, whether we mean it or not: architectural style. Architectural style is much more than an exercise, as my desk has held several iterations across the years that explore what can be classified from modern Baroque to Spanish colonial to a blend of modern and transitional, and every way. I most often understood style as a palette. And in my early days of studying architecture at the Pratt Institute in New York, professors discouraged students from marrying styles. A student's going to be using the same style because, oh, look, that gets a certain reaction. But what I now understand, that's too well a wise position for the skilled professional. We can't just stay to one. Architects attend school to learn the trade and craft. The skill and learning journey to master crafting style couldn't fit within a curriculum or any reasonable career period. Style mastery is like a fingerprint, unique for every architect and designer. But here's what I've learned about the practice of style. Style isn't just about personal taste or labels. In practice, style is about communication. Whether you're designing for a homeowner, a hospitality brand, or a civic group, your ability to express and respond to style with clarity affects how the entire team operates. It affects how contractors build, how consultants draw, and how your clients connect to the vision. This episode isn't made for historians or for explaining style in academic jargon. Architecture Beyond is for everyone who delights in architecture, including designers who need to speak about style in a way that actually helps a project move forward. So today's episode is a practical guide to style, how to understand it, how to talk about it, and how to align the people around you to the ideas from concept through to construction. And before we dive in, this episode is brought to you by Iamthestudio, home of the new course AI for Architects. It's a powerful way to explore and express style using AI generated visual prompts, helping you turn creative visions into clear collaborative communication. So you can check it out at iamstudio.com, and it will be updated so you can see some excellent parts about using AI with style. So what does style mean in practice? Let's begin by untangling a word that shows up on nearly every design brief, yet often means something different to everyone in the room: style. Style is too often mistaken for a purely aesthetic label, something reserved for critics, theorists, or coffee table books. But in the real world of design and construction, style is a practice language, right? It's how architects and teams communicate intent. That's even more clear when we use the word design intent. It's how clients feel heard, and it's how consultants and construction teams understand what's coming, what to draw, what to specify, ultimately what to build. We don't design with style in the abstract. We use it in action. Take any drawing set. You'll find style embedded not just in the elevations, but in the structure, layout, detailing, and materiality. It shows up in the rhythm of columns, the size and spacing of windows, and the slope of a roof. Not to mention, of course, the material of the roof and the lighting strategy, even that brings the whole thing to life. Style directly informs the organization of space and types of materials and fixtures we select and the level of finish we aim to achieve. Do we use exposed steel or concealed framing? Do we include heavy baseboards or shadow reveals? Is the lighting recessed and minimal or expressive and sculptural? These are not secondary questions. They are primary to executing a coherent design. So when we say a building has clean lines or warm material palette, we're not just describing how it looks. We're laying out decisions that affect structure, layout, fixtures, coordination, and ultimately how every team member contributes to the vision. But here's the problem. Style terms have become slippery. Ask 10 people what modern means, and you'll get different answers. To some, it means Bauhaus simplicity. To others, it's just a flat roof and lots of glass. To others still, it's code for white walls and no trim. And then there's transitional, a word that somehow becomes everything and nothing. This kind of ambiguity is dangerous in practice because unclear language leads to misaligned expectations, miscommunication in drawings, budget overruns, and ultimately frustration across the board. So let's be honest about what's at stake. Style choices have ripple effects and they touch every layer of the project. Structure. The style influences massing, geometry, and even structural layout. Whether you're framing boxy, modern cantilevers or spanning vaulted Mediterranean ceilings. For layout, open plan, formal rooms, flow and proportion often follow the cues of style. For materials and fixtures, are we designing for polished concrete or hardwood, integrated lighting, or decorative pendants? These choices define the character and budget of a project. Budget. Some styles demand higher craftsmanship, which means longer lead times or premium finishes. Construction methods. Crisp details might require special substrates or framing techniques. Code and zoning. Style influences massing, and massing affects heights, setbacks, and neighbor responses. Client expectations. Most importantly, style is how we express a client's taste and intent, whether they want something bold and timeless, relaxed, or regionally grounded, just like vernacular. When we as architects take the time to align on style early and clearly, we give clients a tool to see themselves in the work. We give consultants and contractors a roadmap to fulfill the vision without costly guesswork. And yet, here's the twist: the best architects have never been confined by style. Frank Lloyd Wright didn't recycle one visual language across his career. He created something distinct for each context, from the horizontality of the prairie homes to organic flow of falling water, to the theatrical curves of the Marin Civic Center. Louis Kahn wasn't chasing a label. He chased truth in material and space. He asked what a brick wanted to be and found architecture in the silence between light and form. And Tadeando, his work is known for its quiet power, not because it follows style category, but because his control over proportion, surface, and light. His architecture doesn't decorate, it elevates. So when we talk about style here on Architecture Beyond, we're not chasing fashion. We're pursuing clarity. Clarity between architect, client, and builder. Clarity that leads to better collaboration, fewer surprises, and more meaningful architecture all around. And that starts with understanding what style really means in practice. Now let's get to the part of our show where we look at the architectural style field guide. So this is a collection of different styles and just a walkthrough of different things that you can find within different styles. And just there's some focus that I'm talking on. Again, like any architecture can be sort of classified and classified down, but these are some major styles that are very popular. And again, I'll give like resources at the end of the show that you can get information to increase your style knowledge. So this again is the architectural style field guide. And let's get into the styles we'll be looking at. We're going to start off by looking at residential styles. Same time, I'm going to go into maybe a little bit of Le Corbusier, several other types of architects, designers, just to see what they do. Le Corbusier, pretty much Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, all sorts of architects have done residential. And ideas, some of those styles we can learn great things from. So let's walk into those. The modern architectural style, as shown here in the Barcelona Pavilion by Mies van der Rohe, really focusing on things like clean, minimalist architecture with open plans, flat planes, and visual simplicity. That's a quick summary of what you'll see in modern style home. And here's some things as we're also looking at the Farnsworth house pictured and its plan that you can see within this type of architecture. You'll be seeing common details like flat or low slope roof, large glass openings, as well as sliding doors, as well as minimalist trim or no trim. And in terms of color, you'll see neutral color palettes. Industrial or natural materials are the ones that are going to typically be used there, with a very horizontality about their massing. So in defining and working within the style, or even matching the style, you're going to be looking for getting the window frame style and color correct. You'll be looking at how some of those details like the base and such is going to be like really clean, and your casework and doors are going to also be clean, whether it's that sliding door or such the like. And also you'll be working on how that plan could be open, such as this Farnsworth house here. And the structure is, by being very light and minimal, it's not going to have a lot of ornate detail. And that's going to, of course, be sort of reversed in looking at some of the next style, which we're going to be looking at. But it's a beautiful style, and Mies is one of the great ones to look at. Also, again, there are a lot of resources that, again, will be talked on at the end of the show to find out how to really get into that style. But that's what you'll be looking for. That's what you'll be communicating. If you can even have the line of finding these photos that match that type of detailing. Next style we'll be looking at is a Mediterranean architectural style. And this is a Morgan residence by architect Paul R. Williams. And it's, beautifully looking at a style that's talking about an entire period of time in the Mediterranean. What you're going to see in this style is a lot of romantic, warm architecture influenced by the Southern European, that Mediterranean feel. And what you'll see in this type of uh, project is you're going to see actually the opposite, of course, the modern. You'll see that very ornate details, arch windows and doorways, clay tile roofs, stucco exterior and warm tones, wrought iron details and balconies, as well as courtyards and garden facing layouts. The idea is it's very much over that architectural solution that, in the past we had like that courtyard around a pool that really took away the heat. It's a very, very beautiful thing to explore. And I've worked on several Mediterranean myself. And so the key items to define in mastering this and communicating this is say, hey, how do we, do we use those arches or some variation, some way of articulating that for shape and proportion? How do we articulate that roof and work with size and color? And as well, how do we think about the wall finish and column and arcade elements? Like how can we do it in a beautiful way? And then how can we work on things like that are decorative, for example, to create that? And again, there's several architects, and again, if it, obviously in the Mediterranean is where we see the actual origin, right? Because we're figuring out now how to maybe it's applied in different countries, U.S. or China or wherever. And the idea is there's a rich legacy of those, and this is just one of the styles, and those are what you'll be looking for. And now, in looking at the transitional architectural style, which is used very commonly, and the idea is it's something that's a little bit modern, open, but it's also having various effects. You're going to see as in this house here by the Roby House by Frank Lloyd Wright, you'll see a blend of traditional and contemporary features that feel fresh but also so familiar. And so what you're going to see in that type of house, you see through this hallway, you're going to see common details like a shaker or paneled cabinetry, a crown and base moldings that are simplified, a balanced yet symmetrical elevation, as well as traditional roof lines with updated materials. And you also see in terms of colors, soft and neutral finishes. It's a whole tapestry of how these things work together. And you can see from the plan how these all sort of work also in more of an open type plan, as well as just combining to show the craft of all the styles. Here's some key items that you'll define with a style like this. You'll be working with molding profiles, and you'll find where it needs to be simple and where you can actually start to express it. You'll also be looking at proportional of traditional elements like windows and doors, and in terms of lighting, something that works often with clean line classics. And you'll be merging things like old and new material and finishes, materials and finishes together. And then you'll be looking at those transition points between the traditional and modern tones. So it's actually a little bit of mixed style, but also hit like eclectic, where you'll start to see that applied. And so the next style, which we're actually sort of like going into like a larger architecture, is actually going to be looking at colonial architectural style, which actually affects a lot of multifamily around the U.S., around the West. The idea is like when we start looking at larger, it's actually still residential, and just like this project of the Villard houses with architect Joseph Morrill Wells of McKim White. So it's funny how it's an old project, but at the same time now it's actually been refreshed. But it's used as a style, and the idea is it's actually incorporated all over the country. And the idea of things we're looking here is common details like a gabled or hip roof multi-plane double-hung windows, symmetrical facades with a centered front entry, and you'll see things like classical columns or pilasters, as well as wood siding or brick veneer. And that you know ironwork, woodwork, that type of detailing is something that really stands out, and the idea that it will definitely hit the value of something that's based on colonial. And some key items that you'll be defining if that's something that you or client, have agreed on, and find out, or even how you communicate, hey, this would be really valuable to match that style, is that you're going to focus on the window type and how the muntins are, and just like it's more of expressive versus a more simple type. And then you'll be looking at an entryway that's detailed with pediment side lights and fan lights, and as you can see, that's going to make a big deal. And also in terms of learning from the classical orders, in terms of how the cornice is detailed as well, that's going to be very part of what is valuable in colonial. Again, colonial also just reflects to larger style influences. So the idea is this is sort of more of a popular modern application, and something that you can learn from. Next, moving on to the styles that are more hospitality, where you see in a hotel, a larger space, a restaurant. We are starting with looking at projects that are really epic, right? Even the Waldorf Astoria by architect Schultz and Weaver. This is like part of, an opportunity both in new build and construction to, something that's going to help something be crafted that's a public space. Um, and yeah, at the same time, it's very private in terms of like the private rooms of a hotel. First building we're going to look at is the industrial uh, building and style, is our industrial chic architectural style, as you can see here in the Borough Hotel of New York. In this renovation by Grawinski and Pons, against, they actually started with a existing building that had a different purpose, and they repurposed it, saying, hey, we don't have to change everything. How can we start making some of those existing start to work for us? Like how do we expose the concrete or expose these particular elements? So here are some things that you're going to see within this. Again, the summary of what industrial chic is: it's raw exposed materials blended with sleek design for an urban energy feel. And common details you're going to see are exposed structural systems like steel, brick, or concrete with open ceilings, visible ducts, and conduits. It's not just hiding it under a ceiling. And you also see steel frame, glass partition, reclaimed wood or concrete floors, and Edison style lighting. Again, that's going to help you achieve, a look. And again, there are different levels of finish for even reclaimed materials. But the idea is it's something to refresh, maybe a repurposed building. And here's some key items to find when, that's the style that's, hey, that sounds like industrial chic, or, if it's actually mentioned, you will be, deciding what to expose and what to conceal, a finish strategy, if it's a sealant or patina, and then furniture style, vintage or metal framed. And you'll also be thinking how those lighting fixtures will sort of match with what some of the existing is, and also those raw and finished look. And the idea is you can even start it from new in industrial style, um, like a new construction instead of just a renovation. But it's a perfect sort of flourish style for a renovation. So again, there are selections that can be made from that, and that's a great style for hospitality. Yeah, so here we have of the mid-century modern style, the TW Hotel by Eero Senninen, as well as Ink Architecture, JBB, and Rupp. Again, this was a, like a re-envisioning of a facility that was, for the hotel, actually that was previously the airport, right? So it's like using this facility, reimagining it. So this is an interesting way of looking at what mid-century modern is, and here's how we design it. It's pretty much rooted in World War II optimism, right? With open plans, warm woods, and vintage flair. Common details you'll notice in mid-century modern are natural wood finishes, walnut and teak, or thin steel columns, cantilever forms, retro light fixtures, as well as low clean line furniture, as well as clear store ribbon windows. It's the idea again. Some of these can be done in a renovation, or it's like, hey, what fits this type of building, or it can be something that is new with that. Look again, I think there's a lot of styles for new and for renovation that you can also find how does what's the mix. Now here's some key items to define in defining a mid-century modern structure in that style. You're looking at the wood type, species, and finish color. You're also looking at how the iconic fixture references can be placed. You're looking about the furniture scale and the period influence as well as period appropriate detailing. And again, just like with mid-century, you see that it's something that's sort of referring to the past. And so that's something that you'll be working with in defining that type of style. So again, those are the two that I've selected for looking at hospitality. And again, like you can always look at the resources to be finding more how you can define. And again, these are not all just even limited to the style for just hospitality. Obviously, there's mid-century home, but that's an example that's really iconic that you can see demonstrated with. So let's look into our Civic styles and what we can find out. Again, starting off with a great epic project of the Haydar Aliyev Center by Zaidi Architects. Obviously great reference in terms of saying, hey, look, um, something within Civic. And again, this is actually more of the parametric style within the Civic type. And so we're gonna look at different styles that the Civic type of building. So again, that's a very beautiful structure. And here is what you're going to see in the style, which is sort of related to high-tech architecture. It's also parametric and form driven. So this again, this some of the modern styles are a little bit have a lot of things they play from. Again, they're like their family. They come from some reference in history. Um, the style summary of this is that they're sometimes digitally generated using some sort of technology or some how have we advanced to create like a curve like this that has to be definitely calculated. It's not something that has been so much oh look, I can use a traditional box material. But the idea is it responds to performance and experiential goals. Common details you'll find in parametric design is fluid geometry, repeating generative patterns, as well as unconventional material joints, complex roof lines or shells, as well as custom curtain wall systems, facades with layered depth and movement. That's going to be something that you will see. Again, there's several practitioners today that are sort of creating in that style. And again, the idea is it does allude to something of achieving things with materials and using technology to go forward. And here's some key items to define when utilizing and aiming to work in that style. You're working on parametric logic. What drives that form? Where do you stop? If it's a simulation. Obviously, that's part of my background of understanding that. The idea is you're also looking at fabrication tolerance and buildability. We're always using what can be built, and style is, very much informed by what the material can do here. And things like panelizing, panel systems, patterning, and attachment systems are something that has worked with all materials of all ages. But again, like the idea is, yes, we can achieve new things with concrete when we have certain systems and panels in place. And the idea is there's a lot of structural coordination needed as well for something that would sort of achieve this. But at the same time, just as you can see from the effect of this type of building, it was something that was definitely well needed and well executed. If we would look at another sort of civic style, neo-modern, this actually is actually going to be looking at the new National Gallery pictured here by Ludwig Wies van der Rohe. Again, this again is part of something that he's actually demonstrated in the residential style, but in terms of how he's doing this for this civic building, it's going to actually be spanning that material in a very simple way. Again, let's talk about the style summary for this. This is a minimalist and symbolic style, emphasizing purity of form, light, and expression, with common details being things being bold, monolithic, geometry with white or black massing or minimal articulation, as well as sharp reveals and clean junctions, as well as glazing as composition. It's not just, transparency. Again, that open facade, yielding to some of the modern, the way that we look at maybe neo-modern is sort of maybe a little bit reactionary. But key items to define here in this type of style are going to be a material palette and control of those finishes, as well as you'll have detailing around voids and intersections. Lighting design is also an emphasis. Again, the idea is how order can play with the systems, in terms of look at how these bays will contain those lighting. That's going to be something that can put how that space is organized and how it's laid out. And also, again, the acoustic environmental performance of some like clean space is likely going to be a little bit easier than trying to work out, just say auditorium. So that you get like there's different room and space plan design that will always going to be influenced by that base style. And again, you can always be eclectic, but the idea is it's something that's important and that you can play with. So that's going to be the style guide. I broke down looking at different types of architecture and several types of styles, and we have some resources at the end of the show where you can break down. Again, these are some of the architects to look for. Again, I look at several different type of architects. In this episode and over my shows with Architecture Beyond, and you can also find those again at our resources or in our channel just to find out more and learn more. So I'm excited for the next sort of exercise as we continue the show. This is just a quick walkthrough of generating style and looking at DALL-E to know what to do when you're trying to get a style reference with AI and image. Again, you always have that wonderful opportunity with the value of forms like and programs like Google, on Google search or Pinterest, which Pinterest gives a little better tag. However, DALL-E is a great parametric tool, you could quote to say, in terms of it's just AI generated, something that can just generate very quickly. However, just make sure when creating your prompt always just be clear about what you're looking for. Again, AI for Architects, a great course by Iamthestudio, talks into using several different systems for generating AI, but knowing styles is actually going to be very important. So you can be very simple. Let's step into it, okay? So I think one way to start off is definitely knowing the type of view. Like if you want to generate a modern elevation, modern two-story home elevation, we could just simply create it here and maybe we could break into different views later on, right? But if this is going to be a clay render, we can go ahead and type that in as well. And again, that's sort of our style for saying, hey, look, maybe we want to show a modern, and then maybe we want to, after showing the modern style, say, hey, maybe we want to show one of these in Mediterranean. And again, while it generates, you can have your ideas. I always recommend also to have like, where you're saving this in a notebook, say which styles we're going to look at. Do you want to look at 4? Do you want to look at 8? And how does it look in the elevation? And you have to calculate the time for letting it run. But in terms of getting just like in Pinterest where you can do a quick search, the beauty of this is you can be a little more specific because you might not find that within the Pinterest model. So this is just sort of generating one, and we'll go ahead and get that view for the Mediterranean. And as that's loading again, you could always sort of find out how you can sort of start to define this a little bit more if you want to say, hey, let me look at an elevation, which is, again, DALL-E might not be as precise as a mid journey. And again, that's also covered in AI for Architects. So the idea is, when you're working with this, and again, look, the two-story for the mid-century modern is already revealed. Again, you could say, let's look at the front, let's look at the back. All of these things are going to be helpful in the AI working with you, but you get, developing that prompt and saving these prompts is going to help you to have something to work on in the future. Maybe if you're looking at, a small apartment, or if you're looking at a big house or a wide facility, obviously AI is actually pretty good. You could say generate an exterior perspective for a stadium, in parametric style. And again, one thing AI is currently doing is that you're trying to avoid just saying, oh, like use someone's face or someone's style. So it's good to sort of just give it a little bit of a broadness. Again, you could say things like if parametric is a form-driven shape in a dome shape, um, and something like that could help very clearly, in Chicago setting, in clay render style. Like something like that, that's, the teams should be generating and trying to find out how they would figure it out. The idea is, AI already has understood this at a high level, and the idea is when you're looking for solving a design problem utilizing AI, it's actually something that's very well understood about. And the idea is if you're using like, and I just double click to show the Y one again, those who are listening, again, that you can access these in our video. So don't forget to go by our YouTube channel and subscribe. You will be able to see the beauty of something like this. And learning what you're going to find out as you're having an AI ability to find images that reference, and you could always improve it and idea work with this. Again, you also have the ability to import into DALL-E and say, hey, maybe you could describe this, you could describe something that you created, and sort of try to find where does that live. But again, however you do it, I would definitely document all these, and again, you save your trips and your renders, and you'll come up something. And again, this being part of your conversation, if you're an architect or designer, that you're communicating with your team, in-house and out-house, and also just even just giving someone the challenge to, hey, could you take this vision to the finish line with that basis? This also, of course, could be helpful if we're saying, look, generate an industrial chic uh, restaurant interior. And by saying clay render style, that's going to help you really keep it from just doing, colors and materials that you don't like, because you can actually get very specific. I mean, I'm talking about paragraphs of description. I'm just giving the basic because, again, with AI, you want to document and lead, and it will give you things to work with, and you just sort of start to craft that out. Again, this is just several examples of just quickly going in with DALL-E. DALL-E, again, is a little bit extension. There's the sort of free version of ChatGPT that has a level of DALL-E. DALL-E is going to be the faster version, and also again, just like AI for architects that we have it from the course partner with Iamthestudio, they also teach about several other software that has the ability to generate. But this is just looking at DALL-E, and again, you'll be using the same type of methods, but you can always find those in the course to find out how to improve those skills of prompt engineering and prompt design to help you achieve and master styles, and also have this incredible AI tool to help you along that path. Here's a practical workflow for style as a shared language. So now that we've unpacked what style means in practice and looked at the common categories we all encounter, let's talk about how to actually work with style collaboratively. Because style is only valuable when everyone involved understands what it means, that includes your client, your design team, and the people on site who are actually building it. Let's break down this by audience. With clients. Working with clients means helping them articulate their taste without drowning them in jargon. The biggest pitfall arrives from oversimplifying the seemingly innocent question, what style do you want? Instead, ask, what kind of spaces inspire you? Or what homes, buildings, or places have felt really memorable to you? These kinds of questions invite emotion and reference, not labels. Once you have their answers, use image-based tools like Pinterest boards, portfolio boards, even a simple collage from a magazine pictures in a folder. These simple visual surveys will help you hone in on preferences. And don't assume when they say farmhouse that they mean the same thing that you do. Even if you come from the same city, you'd be surprised how wide that could vary. Are they picturing rustic wood or hand forged ironwork? Or are they thinking of a clean and black and white minimalist barn? Look, with no ornament. Clarifying vocabulary early saves time, money, and revisions later on. Now, here's how to work with teams. Your internal team, whether that's junior designers, consultants, or collaborators, needs shared language from day one. So that's whether you're leading a team or you're just on a team. These are some ways to help it get alignment across the board. So that means that you'll need to have a clear style direction at the concept stage. Whether it's a mood board, a reference set, or even a style statement in the project brief, getting alignment early helps everyone draw, render, and specify with consistency. The technical phases, you can push that even further by documenting style directly in your BIM or Revit models. Here's how you can get that done. You can define materials with specific finished samples. You can tag families of details to match style intent. You can also use naming conventions that reflect the visual language that you've agreed on. The goal is to bake style into the model so it carries forward, not just visually, but technically. And this also would be incredibly helpful if you even make templates that reflect certain styles so that you can always draw from that. Templates or folders for longevity and quickness in delivering style options. Now, here's what we could do with contractors. Contractors don't speak in concepts. They speak in elevations, specs, and dimensions. So style needs to translate into literal instructions for them. That means your style decision must show up in spec sheets, finished schedules, window and door elevations, trim profiles, and material callouts. Don't rely on shorthand like modern baseboard or classic window casing because terms like that are subjective. What you can see as a clean and modern idea might be totally different from what a subcontractor is used to installing. So use annotated elevations, exploded details even, and even rendering callouts to show the intent clearly. And if there's a material fixture or profile that really defines the look, call it out with a photo, a section detail, or note. The more visual and literal you make it, the better the results are on site. At the end of the day, style isn't just a design choice, it's a coordination tool. When we use it clearly and consistency, it becomes a bridge between vision and reality, between client and contractor, between creativity and execution. That's where great architecture lives. And be sure to check out show links for a shared language checklist for style from Architecture Beyond to help you keep alignment between owners, design teams, and contractors to achieve those style goals. So here's some practical resources for understanding style. Before we wrap, I want to leave you with some tools you can keep in your back pocket, resources that will help you continue developing your own style fluency and make it easier to communicate design ideas clearly. Let's start with a few key books, some that I've used personally that have really been instrumental. These range from quick references to deeper reads. They're all incredibly useful depending on where you are in your process. So the first book we're going to talk about is What Style Is It by John C. Papeliers. It's a straightforward visual reference guide, sort of in this sort of size proportion, but it's a visual reference guide that helps you identify and differentiate between architectural styles, great for students, clients, and anyone looking for a clear breakdown. The next book is The Architecture of Happiness by Alain de Botton. This one's more philosophical but powerful. It's a reminder that architecture isn't just functional, it's emotional, a beautiful meditation on why style matters to the human experience. Next, more on the academic front, because I definitely read it in school, is Modern Architecture Since 1900 by William J.R. Curtis. The deep dive if you want the full context behind major movements in architecture over the last century. This one is dense, but it is rewarding, and I definitely pick it out every year or a couple times a year just to get ideas back. Next is Get Your House Right, Architectural Elements to Use and Avoid by Marianne Cusado. It's especially up for residential work. It breaks down common mistakes and highlights how classical principles can help guide proportion, trim, and detail without falling into cliche. So that's more about helping functionality work no matter what style you're going to use. Now here's some web and visual tools. Number one is ArcDaily and Zine. Use the style or tag section on these platforms to explore project types by visual language. It's great for finding real-world references that match client conversations. Next is Pinterest and Instagram. Still two of the best visual curation tool. Create folders, save collections based on style categories, modern, industrial, Mediterranean, transitional, you name it, you can find it. Next is Mortfolio Board. If I haven't used it personally, but I've heard about it, and I do think it's really helpful. If you're working professionally or presenting to clients, Mortfolio's visual boards tools are perfect for assembling and annotating style references in a format that looks polished and intentional. And then there's Iamstudio's Freestyle Reference Download. We've also put together a free downloadable style reference that helps you compare popular architectural styles side by side. It's visual, it's quick, and it's made for working architects, working and just practicing architects. So the idea is going to help you in the day to day. You can grab it at Iamstudio or in the links for this episode. Style isn't something you ever fully master. It's something you keep practicing. The better your vocabulary, the clearer your vision, and the smoother your path from concept to construction. Stick around because next week we're diving into evidence-based design and how you can get that type of principle into your design so you're making sure that your choices are actually things that are actually proven to cause results. But for now, I hope you utilize these resources and that they give you a solid base to build on. As we wrap up today's episodes, I want to leave you with one final thought. Style isn't about being right, it's about being clear. When you start to see style as a label not to defend, but as a tool to connect with your clients, your team, and the people who bring your work to life, you unlock better collaborations, smoother projects, and ultimately stronger design outcomes. Architecture is a language, and style is one of the most visible parts of that language. The clearer we are, the more fluent and impactful our decisions become and our designs become. If this episode helped you think about style differently, share it with your team or your studio or even a client who's navigating their own style vocabulary. And don't forget, check out our sponsor, Iamthestudio, where we've just launched AI for Architects. It's a hands-on course that helps you define and express style visually using AI image tools like Midjourney and DALL-E, making it easier than ever to align with clients and consultants. Up next on Architecture Beyond, we're diving into the power of evidence-based design with interior design leader and industry maverick Giselle Newman. So next month, we'll be talking with her, and she's bringing us sharp insights on how research-driven strategies are shaping the future of environments that actually work for people, performance, and purpose. So don't miss it. Thank you for listening to Architecture Beyond. If you haven't already, hit subscribe and stay tuned. We've got more coming your way to help you think clearer, deeper, and smarter about architecture. I'm Brandon Gibbs. I've enjoyed being your host, and I'll see you on the next episode of Architecture Beyond.